I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Kylie Jefferson will be leading us this evening in the pledge. And then we'll have a brief moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any changes or revisions to the regular or consent agendas?
I will not have any consent agenda. I'm sorry.
Okay. So there being no changes or revisions, then I have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the regular and consent agenda.
I'll second.
We made a motion to approve the regular and consent agendas. Joe seconded it. All those in favor? Okay. Recognitions and information. Students of the month. Mr. Gowan.
Caden, come on up, Caden. This is Caden Jefferson. He is our fourth grade student of the month. The fourth grade team got together and they said that he was the one who had the qualities that we're all looking for in a young man. So turn around so you can. And so his teacher's Mrs. Lovett, and Mrs. Lovett said this about Caden, that he's in her fourth grade class this year, and she's been very impressed with his determination to succeed at whatever he's doing. Caden works until he solves the problem and completely understands it. He's also a member of the Spell Bowl team, which requires a lot of work outside the classroom. Caden continues to do our regular classroom spelling task on top of Spell Bowl, even when he's not required to. His display of competence to manage those tasks in fourth grade is extremely notable. Caden Jefferson is also a model student to his peers when it comes to honesty, compassion, and fairness. And she's very happy to award this young man Student of the Month.
Good job.
Okay, and from Fillmore Elementary.
So this is Lizzie Ellis, and it is my pleasure to present Lizzie to you as the September Student of the Month for Fillmore Elementary School. So Lizzie was chosen for displaying perseverance and effective communication. According to Lizzie's teacher, Mrs. Danner, she chose Lizzie because every day that Lizzie walks in my classroom, she has a smile on her face. She radiates joy and is always genuinely happy to be there. Her upbeat attitude carries over into her work ethic. Even when faced with difficult challenges, Lizzie cheerfully tries her hardest. She is willing to attempt anything I assign, even if she is a little unsure of herself at first. She is a role model for other students in perseverance. One thing Mrs. Danner really admires about Lizzie is her ability to learn from her mistakes. When we go over mistakes in her work, she does not get mad or upset. She readily listens for what went wrong and how to make it better the next time. This is an important skill that will aid her in her future. Mrs. Danner says she is very fortunate to have such a cheerful, hardworking student like Lizzie in her class. Now, as Lizzie's principal, I have witnessed Lizzie's ability to persevere in the classroom as well. So she's an effective communicator with her classmates and school staff, and I can always count on Lizzie's positive attitude to be a bright spot to my day each and every morning and throughout the day. So congratulations, Lizzie. Want the letter?
And Mrs. Gardner, middle school and high school.
I'm going to do Kalani first. So come on up, Kalani. This is our high school student of the month, Kalani Montgomery. So Kalani was nominated by Elaine Bai. Kalani has many great. I'm sorry, McKenna Jones.
Okay.
When you looked, I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, you were like, Mrs. Gardner, you're not right there. Okay. Kalani has many great character traits, and this makes sense because it's about an English essay that she worked on. Kalani has many great character traits, but recently she's demonstrated commendable perseverance and courage after making the decision to enroll in the early college course. Kalani was working on a literary analysis of The House of Mango Street for my class when she began to wonder if she should regret the decision of signing up for early college classes. She was having trouble with the outline of the paper. I was a little worried that she would tell me that she would be switching out of EC at the end of the semester. But when she returned the following day, she scheduled a time to get some additional help with the assignment. I was impressed that she came to discuss the assignment after school on a Friday. And by Monday, her previously blank assignment was done and done well. Since then, she continues to show the same level of perseverance, courage, and work ethic. Kalani makes clear progress every single day, and I genuinely am proud of her. Virtue in the face of challenging and a frustrating situation. When faced with such a challenge, many kids choose to take the easy way out when a given consequence-free opportunity is there to do so. But Kalani chose to buckle down and try harder, which is why I would like to have her nominated as the student of the month. So, let me go ahead and read Mary Jane Shercliffe's. She was nominated by Mr. Arrett. Mary Jane has been off to an impressive start during the first grading period. She was one of two students who scored 100 on the last test. Mary Jane currently has the highest grade in the class of all the students, too. With the level of students in the room, this is quite an achievement. What is most impressive is her commitment to excellence. She takes her time and always turns in the highest quality work. For example, her lab report was given to all the students as an example of the level that's needed to be accomplished when working on those papers. Not only is she a great student, but a great person and works well with everyone in the room. Congratulations.
Thank you, teachers, administrators, and especially families and your students. We realize that these meetings can be kind of long. And if you need to go home to work on homework or something, you're welcome to. I can do laundry. They're great papers. I'm going. Financial update.
Yeah, so in your packets, and first of all, I have bronchitis, so I apologize. I'm on the island over here. In your packets, you received the latest financial reports. They have the cash flows and fund reports as well in those. In those reports, you can see we continue to track positively, and our income, expenses, and cash balances are all as forecasted. Later in the meeting, we will discuss and approve our new 2024 budget.
Legislative update.
As I started to say earlier, I don't really have much for legislative update, but nothing much has changed since our last public meeting with, right after ISBA. So I mentioned a few things then, but if anything does come up, I'll keep an eye on it and try to keep everybody informed.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Item 6, public comment. Do we have, okay. Item 7, new business.
So we have the second reading of the corporation policies. The installment for the Neola Corporation updates as are required prior to approval. So this is just a notification on the agenda that we are having the second reading.
Okay, so that was item A. Item B, consideration of approval of Neola Corporation policy update.
So with those policies that have gone through second reading now, first and second readings, the first reading was at our last regular board meeting. Those policies are in your board packets, and so tonight we're just seeking approval of those policies which are in the folders for approval.
So, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the Neola Corporation policy updates.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Wade made the motion to approve the Neola Corporation policy updates. Lee seconded that. All those in favor? Motion carries. C, consideration of adding middle school softball and middle school baseball.
So we're always looking for ways to integrate our school life with our student activity opportunities here at South Putnam. The middle school baseball and softball proposal is one more way we can do that. You've been provided with a proposal from Mrs. Gardner in your board packets, and she's here tonight to provide some additional information as needed.
So I apologize, I'm a little dressed down today. I was out at Chandler Farm with our Old National Trail class today. So special thanks to Matt Chandler for helping put that together, and Joe Quiz, who's the executive director out at Old National Trail. It's a perfect fall day. Go out, pick pumpkins and apples, and spend some time with kids. So, okay, so you have the proposal. I can read it just for the audience's sake if they want to know more about it. So I'm recommending that the South Putnam Community School Corporation consider adding middle school softball and baseball to our athletic program. The idea was proposed by Lee Klein and Jim Holderfield, and they've been involved in our youth programs. So that's why it came from them. Athletic Director Troy Burgess and I met with Mr. Klein and Mr. Holderfield and discussed the idea. Several surrounding schools currently have middle school baseball and softball teams, including Cascade, Crawfordsville, Edgewood, Greencastle, Monrovia, Mooresville, North Putnam, Owen Valley, Park Heritage, and Southmont. The new middle school program will function under the authority of myself and our athletic director, assistant athletic director, and head coaches of each respective program. We do recommend a coach for each of the 7th and 8th grade positions in baseball and softball. I would recommend stipends be added to the ECA schedule comparable to other middle school coaching positions. We expect about 10 to 12 games per season. All of the practices and home games will be conducted at South Putnam Middle and High School. Costs to the athletic department would include ticket takers, umpires, uniforms, and equipment such as game balls, helmets, bats, and catcher's gear. I know there has been talk of some of these items being able to be donated. Also, when I talked to Mr. Burgess, he felt that the athletic department could absorb those costs. We would get the ticket sales, and we would get additional concession money on those nights when we have games. The corporation would incur the transportation costs to the away games and the ECA coaching stipends. I would anticipate the stipends to be around $2,000 each based on similar positions. If we could schedule the softball and baseball on the same night, we could take one yellow bus. Drivers are at a current cost of $15 per hour and $1 per mile. So a trip could cost between $125 and $155. And depending on initial response, we may have a combined 7th and 8th grade team, softball team and baseball team initially, depending on how many kids try out. If we did that, that would kind of be where we would start initially, try to get games for them combined. And then as we grow the program, our goal would be to have enough students to be able to do one per separate grade. And if we get the turnout, we can start it out that way.
So you answered my one question, which was if Troy thought it could be absorbed for the cost of all that would be okay.
Yes.
Is Brad here tonight? I thought I saw him. So my other question is, I know we're, bus drivers are kind of a problem. So would this be an extra burden, or like if they can figure it out where just one bus is taken for both softball and baseball? Or how do you think that's going to go?
I think we could find drivers. Yep. I don't think that'd be a problem.
Okay.
That was a good proposal you sent us, and talked to Dr. Smith briefly, and he didn't have any concerns on the financial side of it. I'm just wondering, what about the Bell Union property and all the donations that's kind of kept that alive, recently, and what? Yeah, I'd like for.
So the youth league and this is completely separate. So the youth league will still stay the same at the Ball Diamonds, still run currently at the Ball Diamonds. Nothing will change there. It hasn't for the past probably 4 years. We haven't had any middle school or Babe Ruth level baseball at Bell Union. So it's been a while.
Will this have any overlapping with the varsity program as far as field time and stuff like that? Because I can see that maybe being an issue at some point down the
So
road.
it would be pecking order, right?
Yeah.
Our high school program is going to take seniority. I know that's one of the considerations. I know one of the proposals on the table with construction is that you've looked at adding lights. I think that would be a great benefit to this program, is extending those hours, because high school program would take priority. Last spring, I don't know if that's a good judge, because last spring we didn't really have to cancel much because we didn't have as many rainouts. So I think, again, if we start, especially if we start with combined teams, I feel like we can probably accommodate that. I didn't mean to cut you off, Lee, if you had thoughts on that too.
No, we've worked within the last 2 years on the same field with one field. Exactly, if the varsity has a rain out and it gets rescheduled for a night that middle school has a game scheduled, the varsity is going to take that field. And that's what it is. That's with all sports, you know. So last year I think we had maybe one rain out, and the year before we had a couple, but it's been pretty good.
Does the,
It's the distance is the issue, right?
Well, there is a field set up for middle school baseball at Bell Union, but when it comes to when you go under high school, then it's a whole nother insurance and all type of different legalities that you can, but I think we steer.
If the middle school, if it came down to it and one game had to be played there, is that like?
Well, that was one of the concerns when we actually met and talked through this, is we've been using that Bell Union facilities exclusively for our elementary program. And so we're in a partnership, I guess you would say, an understanding with them that they're using that facility and that what they're generating from that facility, they're investing back in the facility, but they're also maintaining it and taking kind of ownership over the responsibility over the keeping the grounds up and maintaining it. We don't want to change that relationship, and so that's one of the reasons when we talked about this in terms of keeping things separate, we said, okay, then we're going to have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, then we're going to do all middle school, high school things here, because if we start going out there, then I think then the school has more of an interest in how are things being maintained and kept up, because now we're putting one of our programs out there. And that's not that it's not being maintained, but then if we take over maintenance of that facility, then we're going to have to start charging the youth program in order to cover our maintenance costs, and then the investments that they've made. I just think we have to start walking down a lot of roads for that. But if we keep it separate, which I think we can sustain it by keeping it separate, that's what we want to do. And I know the Babe Ruth programs used to go up higher in age, and they were still pretty popular, and there were a lot of kids in those programs. We're seeing a lot of kids either do travel or not be as involved in those programs now, and so they're kind of falling away. So if the school doesn't really step up and absorb this middle school level, I think our kids are going to lose access to it. And that was the strongest argument for me in terms of why now. And that was one of the questions we discussed at that meeting is, okay, why now? Why, if we haven't had it in the past, why is it necessary now? And that's what we're hearing is we want to keep access to kids in that age group, not have a gap of time. And some kids need some transportation out to those away games and need access. And so we would be under the IHSA guidelines. We want to keep things consistent. Middle schools kind of voluntarily choose to abide by the IHSAA. They're not mandated to, but since we're in the same building and we have a lot of staff members that are crossing over between middle school and high school, we want to make sure, just for example, you can't practice on Sundays, right? And some of those guidelines, we would adhere to all of those just like we do with all of our other middle school programs, so that we never inadvertently jeopardize our high school programs by, a coach who's used to doing middle school doesn't realize, oh, I can't do that at high school. So we would have uniformity across those programs just like we do in other sports.
So like in swimming, varsity swimming, they have their season and then the junior high season goes right after. So the only overlap is really in practicing. So is that the same with softball and baseball middle school?
Not really. It's the same as football.
Could it be the same?
That's all scheduling. I mean, that's most of the time middle school baseball is done before the school ends. The school year ends.
And the high school season is close enough to the end. You can't really push it out any further.
Started earlier, you're in winter.
Yeah, you can only start so soon, and then now when we hopefully if we approve this turf field, then we'll just be able to practice on that turf field and do all that kind of good stuff. So.
And we hosted, they came to our facility, like they were here for a lot of their games. So, I mean, even last year, even when they were doing it independently, they played games here.
Yeah.
There were nights when, we had a track meet going on and they had their own ticket taker who was right next to it, and they were there for the middle school program. So They've been kind of doing it on their own and taking that burden on, and now we're just wanting to pull it together formally and clean up those pieces up.
So you've had a trial anyway, like it's.
For the past 2 years, we've been here
It's been
and
working.
worked with the high school baseball coach and the
With the
schedule.
lights, that'll kind of
Yeah.
make things a little better.
We just add hours to the day, right? And so especially like, from a practice situation, and I mean, being able to say, hey, if the middle school needs to practice after the high school, then there's more hours in the day. We can get that done and not have to cut practices short or have to say no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll take a motion to approve the addition of middle school softball and baseball.
I move to approve the middle school softball and baseball.
Second.
Any discussion? Joe made a motion to approve the addition of middle school softball and baseball. Wade seconded that. All those in favor? Motion carries. Consideration of out-of-state field trip.
As per our board policy, out-of-state and overnight field trips requires school board approval. Mrs. Gardner is here to provide some additional information needed for the out-of-state field trip that's referenced in your board packets.
So Caroline, Keaton, Allie, Aiden, I don't think Sydney was here this summer because she had a conflict, but basically the senior class officers came in and talked about some things they were hoping for their senior year. I met with them this summer, and one of the things they brought up is senior trip. We want to do the senior trip again. So for several years they've gone up to Chicago. This time they decided to go over to St. Louis. So I can read you the trip that they're going to be taking, and we're actually doing this right after fall break. As soon as we get back, we try to choose a day when there are the least conflicts for kids. And we've got about 33, is that what we're at, Brian, right now? 33. Okay, so we're going to leave in the morning, 6:30 a.m., bright and early. Worldwide Tours is going to take us by motor coach over to St. Louis. We're going to stop and get breakfast on the way. Then we're going to do a tour of the arch, so they'll actually get to go up in the arch. We're going to do a Mississippi boat tour. We're going to have lunch at the zoo and have time at the zoo, and then we're going to go to Union Station. There's an aquarium in this Union Station. Then we're going to go over to Ballpark Village, which is over by Busch Stadium, and there's some restaurants around there so the kids can have dinner, and then we're going to head home. We'll be home. We should be home by 11. We might get home a little bit earlier and spend a little bit less time with dinner stuff. So I'm asking for your approval to go out of state and go on that trip.
So you said senior trip,
Yep.
but it's just those that are paying for it, or how come the numbers are low?
Right. So they have to choose to go and pay to go, but
Okay.
we also make it clear that if there's a financial burden that's keeping kids from going, that they just need to contact the guidance office, and we have opportunities to meet that need.
How much is that?
$150.
And then
Second.
Holly made a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip. And Lee seconded that. All those in favor? Thank you, Mrs. Gardner. E, consideration of adoption of the 2024 budget, tax rates, and levies.
So every year we come to you at this time to approve our budget for the next fiscal year. Tonight we will approve 3 required documents, but also 3 complementary documents that will assist us in the ongoing accounting and financial stewardship aspects of the entire budgeting process. We believe, and you've seen, that our current financials are strong, and this budget will continue to meet our needs while also maintaining the fiscal conservancy that allows for the projects that we're talking about, the infrastructure, and the educational needs throughout the district. As you know, all the details of the budget and the associated requirements have been previously discussed and posted in other required meetings and hearings over the past few months. So we'll just get started on this little trip here. We'll start with the first required document, required item. It's the ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rates. It's also known as Form 4. The details of the budget categories and tax rates for the DLGF, that's the Department of Local Government Finance, Therefore, we seek approval of the 2024 ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rates tonight.
Any questions? Dr. Smith? Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
I move to approve the 2024 ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rates.
I'll second.
Joe made the motion to approve the 2024 ordinance or resolution for appropriations and tax rates. Holly seconded that. All those in favor? Motion carries. Consideration of adoption of bus replacement resolution.
Our second required item is the resolution to adopt the bus replacement plan. Indiana Code 20-40-18-9 requires the adoption of the school bus replacement plan. Therefore, tonight we're just seeking the approval of the resolution to adopt the 2024 bus replacement plan.
Questions? Motion?
I move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024 bus replacement plan.
Second.
Holly made the motion to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024 bus replacement plan. Lee seconded that. All those in favor? Okay. G, consideration of adoption of capital projects resolution.
Our third required item, as per Indiana Code 20-40-18-9, requires the adoption of the capital projects fund plan. Therefore, we seek the approval of the resolution to adopt the 2024 capital projects fund plan as presented.
Questions? Okay, motion?
I move to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024 capital projects fund plan.
Second.
Holly made the motion to approve the resolution to adopt the 2024 capital projects fund plan. Wade seconded that. All those in favor? H, consideration of adoption to approve reduction in appropriations.
Okay, hang on here. Here we go. So just hang with me here. So the resolution to reduce appropriations is needed to maintain the 2024 total tax rate at a level necessary for operations during 2024. As we get to the end of the 2023 budget cycle, there may be existing 2023 appropriations that have balances that will not be obligated for the purpose for which they were appropriated. This resolution provides the authority to reduce the 2024 adopted appropriations and reduce and or transfer the 2023 appropriations during the 1782 response period in 2023 with the Department of Local Government Finance in the amounts necessary to maintain maximum levy allowed in each fund for the 2024 budget. Therefore, we're just seeking approval of this resolution to reduce the appropriations.
If Paul hadn't gone over that with us before, I would be
Right.
asking a lot of questions.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of amazing that kind of made sense, right? Okay, does anyone else have questions? Okay, I'll take a motion then.
I move to approve the resolution to reduce appropriations.
I'll second.
Holly made the motion to approve the resolution to reduce appropriations. Lee seconded that. All those in favor? I, consideration of adoption of resolution to transfer funds from education fund to operations fund.
The legislation set this up, the legislators did at the state. This resolution is the annual request to authorize the transfer of amounts from the education fund to the operations fund. Specifically, the resolution allows the transfer of up to 15% from the education fund to the operations fund throughout the 2024 calendar year to reimburse the operations fund for expenses that are not allocated to student instruction and learning under Indiana Code 20-42.5. This transfer shall be executed on a regular basis, which we like to do on a monthly basis. And we've done that previously in previous budget cycles, as you see on your reports every month. Therefore, tonight we just seek approval of the resolution to transfer amounts from the education fund to the operations fund.
I move to approve the resolution to transfer amounts from the education fund to the operations fund.
I'll second.
Joe made the motion to approve the resolution to transfer amounts from the education fund to the operation fund. Wade seconded that. All those in favor? Motion carries. J, consideration of adoption of resolution to transfer appropriations within a fund.
This will sound like a broken record as well. We did this last year as well. This resolution to transfer 2023 budget appropriations provides the flexibility at the end of the budget cycle to use intra-fund transfers before December 30th of this year. That helps us to better track available appropriations. The resolution provides the permission to make transfers necessary to facilitate fiscal management, especially here at the end of the budget cycle. All inter-fund transfers will be reported to the board no later than February of 2024 at that board meeting. Therefore, tonight we seek approval of the resolution transfer of the 2023 budget appropriations.
On that. Okay, motion.
I move to approve the resolution, transfer 2023 budget appropriations.
Polly made the motion to approve the resolution transfer of 2023 budget appropriations. Joe seconded it. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, consideration of approval to proceed to design.
So after a very productive public work session on September 26th, we were able to narrow the scope of the upcoming project with Fanning Howie and MKS. Tonight we're joined with Andy Miller. He's the Chief Operating Officer and Principal at Fanning Howie. And I'm going to see who's on virtually here in just a moment. It's either David Johnson and or Don Terry and Dr. Penrod as well.
All right, so as Dr. Smith had said, we had a fantastic session last work session. We went through all of the priorities. We heard from multiple people, their passions and how we could organize this priorities list. The board came down to a decision to carry through both a 2-quart and a 3-quart option and see how those have impacts on the overall budget. And so the document that you have lists both of those as the 2-quart and 3-quart options and the priorities that are listed below that. One of the things that we did in that session was, rather than have things lumped under like the pool or exterior improvements or things like that, we actually broke them down into their individual activities or individual scope and then the costs that were associated with that. So the first 2 pages that you see on the design estimate priority list those priorities in order with one caveat. I went back through my notes a couple times and I could not determine whether the central elementary roof was to be included with the out-of-warranty roofs. My impression on the notes was that it was not out of warranty and that it was maintenance something, and it was something that could be pushed down the list. Is that correct? Okay. So I ordered that correctly in this priority list, just so you know. The blue and the green lines are the what we would consider the cap. Now, we talked a couple figures, and Brandon, at some point as we go through this, will establish exactly what that cap is. But I drew a line on the priorities list to show you for each 2 or 3-quart option what was possible in that or below that cap. So that's what you see on the first 2 pages. I further broke this down into a 3-column matrix for you so that you can understand those tallying costs as they tally up. One of the things that I did add, and we discussed this at length in the last board meeting work session, was that there are some costs in here that will change, and most likely change to be less as the scope better defines. And those costs can possibly fold above the line as we figure out the total budget.
In both cases.
In both cases. So I wanted to let you know that that will allow things to move above and below the line as we go through further design. So I just wanted to denote those so that you see those and understand that that they can change.
What you're saying is, going forward with design, you're still keeping the 3 and the 2 option through the design phase, so we can kind of narrow it down as we move forward.
Right, right, and that would be our intention, to take the design so that MKS could really drill into the costs. At some point along the way, a decision needs to be made whether we continue through with one of these as the main design concept and the other as an alternate, or we completely drop the second option and hone our design on just one option. So that is a decision that we will make as we develop this further, and the board can analyze the costs.
And that'll be MKS, coming to that point where
Yes.
they will approach us and say, hey, we got to make a decision here. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
that's exactly right. And I would anticipate that happening at the end of design development, before we get into construction documents, because I don't want the board or the corporation to incur additional design fees if we have to develop the design for both options all the way through. So we'll help guide you and help you understand that how all of these costs come together and what your options are when we get to that.
So will there be, and maybe you can't answer this, will there be a big difference between, I don't know how to say it. So in other words, you start with a 2-court option and it's going to go out front or whatever. And so a 3-court option would still be out front, or is it a case where if you go to the 3-court option, then it's got to be a totally different plan?
I think we'll work through those options.
Okay.
Obviously, as we cite those, there's a difference in size, but there's also, we have to think about use and location and priorities and avoiding utilities and
Right.
and all of those things. So there's a lot of factors that'll go into citing both of those options around the building. We'll obviously work through our schematic design to help designate and show those footprints and locations, and then the design will advance until we come to a decision.
Thank you.
One of the examples that we talked about at length was the track. As we evaluate those, we take tours, we understand what the settlement issues are, then that cost could drop dramatically. So we really need to get eyes on that, like I said, do the testing and everything so that pricing will condense and be more precise, and then we can determine where that fits in the priority system. So
If we have to take the track completely up, would there be any more additional cost to move it east or west? If you're starting with a clean slate, right? Essentially, if you're taking the track up, you're starting with a clean slate.
sure.
If there's room to move the track 20 feet to the east, it would essentially would it not be roughly the same price?
Yeah, it would, and the key to that is we're already determined that we're going to completely redo the field.
Right.
And so all of that could squib one direction or another and still be appropriate in its new position. So, yeah, that's something that we can definitely set as a scenario and determine that cost.
Okay, thank you.
So, looking at these options, I come to you today to let you know that we've listened to what your priorities are, and we would ask that we move out of the study mode into design from this day forward, and start to work towards some of these goals and priorities, and and move this ahead so that we don't lose time on the back end. We've talked about priorities. We obviously are going to need to face, say, the football field and the track to make sure that we get that done by the fall. So that might be something that's bid in advance of the building or some of those other priorities. So I want to keep us on track and help guide you through that. And we'll come to you each board meeting with options and ideas on how the design is progressing and keep you abreast. And if we have to make some determinations or decisions, we can do that in the work session.
So in regards to that, like, well, I don't know how it's gonna work with the pool, but like replacing the lining. So, but you're saying that we can piece things out and do them in an order, doesn't have to be all at once, right?
Right, and Brandon will obviously help with that. He'll help us keep within the bounds of the monies and the allotments. And I'm always, it sometimes changes, and so
Yeah.
that's great that we have Brandon here to help us make sure that we keep that all within the bounds of how that's distributed.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have questions or anything, discussion or anything? And you have everything you need.
I do.
As
Yeah.
soon as we.
Yeah, if I'm authorized, then I will extend the contract with you, and I will get all of my consultants in line as well, and pass those agreements by the board as well.
So we just need a motion to
Approve Fanning Howie and MKS.
I move to approve Fanning Howie and MKS to proceed to design.
Joe made the motion to approve Fanning Howie and MKS to proceed to design. Holly seconded that. All those in favor? Yay, we're off and running.
Now comes to work.
Have fun with that, Andy. Hearing on the tentative agreement with South Putnam Classroom Teachers Association is next on the agenda.
And I'm going to ask you to take a seat back there.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring
absolutely.
up. Thank you, Andy, by the way. So at this time, I'm going to invite Joe McCamick, the president of the South Putnam Classroom Teachers Association, to the table. We've had a very productive negotiations and getting to this tentative agreement. Working with the Teachers Association continues to prove that all parties are mutually invested in the financial responsibility and stewardship for South Putnam Community School Corporation. But we're also working proactively, working toward an agreement that encourages retention and attraction of highly qualified educators. I'm going to start this process out with just a brief overview of the tentative agreement that we've come to an agreement on, and then we'll go from there. So let me pull this up.
Man, just teasing.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
I may be like sitting at this table representing as far as the teacher association and everything, but I will tell you that the credit for the mastermind behind getting this stuff worked out and dealt with is really Brian Gardner. Yes, so take the credit because he has always done a marvelous job, and it makes me sitting here look good, I guess. I don't know. But I truly, the credit for the organizing and getting everything together, it goes to Brian. So thank you, Brian, for what you do for all of us. And thank you, board members that were involved with it, for listening to us and working with us.
So this is new to South Putnam. We are doing a 2-year agreement that will cover from 23 to 25, which is the academic years of 2023-24, which is the current year, and next year as well, 24-25. This has been published and been available up on our website since last Friday. This agreement does meet the Indiana code, as you see there, for expenditure requirements. So there's a requirement for a $40,000 minimum salary for teachers, and 62% of our state grant funding needs to go towards salaries and benefits and everything that goes along with that. And that's an upgrade from what we've had before. It used to be 45% just for salaries. Starting salary increase across the board will be a $2,000 to the base. So our starting salaries at South Putnam will be $44,000 for a bachelor's degree and $46,000 for a master's degree. Salaries, for the most part, will be increased about $3,000, and that would be for those who were with the corporation last year. It will include an effective or highly effective rating. We'll also include an increment of $1,000. New teachers to the district have already received that because they came in with their experience. So basically, everyone gets about a $3,000 salary increase. Top of the scale is $63,000 for a bachelor's degree. That goes up to 20 levels, and a master's degree is $69,000 with 24 levels at the master's column. There's no changes to the insurance or benefits, and no changes to the catastrophic illness or injury leave bank. Teachers donate those days, and South Putnam Classroom Teachers Association administers the bank via a committee. So that's no change. I just want to make sure that we talked about that. Personal leave days, which is called PTOs or paid time off, still 13 personal leave days. There's a PTO buyout. Personal leave days over 60 are bought out and placed into a 401A at $85. That was negotiated last year, but that's still in the contract. And restoration of bought out days is $85. So if someone needs to buy those back, it's at $85. It's the same rate as which they were purchased. Additional earning of paid leave days. We did this a couple years ago, and we've made a couple tweaks to it this year. There's an option now when a teacher with a sub shortage. So we have teachers who will cover other teachers' classrooms during their prep time when we need coverage. And so it's been a great help across the board, very collaborative effort. And what this is when they do that 7 times, they can earn an extra PTO day. But now we're adding the option of actually being compensated as a sub for those 7 periods that they've covered. So there's a maximum of 3 PTO days. That means they would have covered 21 different classes to get to that. But then there's sub rate compensation, meaning they can continue to do that for the licensed teacher sub rate pay.
Corey, does that work at the elementary too?
It's not as easy to do at the elementary level, but they can on their preps use their prep time to cover.
It'd be like in 45-minute increments instead of like a period. So
it's
logistics,
equivalent.
but
It's just
it would work.
We are adding this year an attendance incentive under Article 7, Section K. Teachers who use 3 or less PTO days during the academic year will earn a $500 stipend at the end of the year. Teachers who use 4 or 5 PTO days will receive a $200 stipend. So the idea here is to encourage teachers to be in the classroom and to incentivize those that are not using a lot of PTO time. There's still 185 contract days, no change on that. The teacher need AP dual credit. We had a few tweaks there. Core content dual credit is now up to $2,000 per course taught. That's an extra $500 for each course taught. Non-core content dual credit classes are up to $1,500 now. That's an extra $500 for that. AP courses stay the same at $1,000 per course taught. And teacher of need, which we put in the contract in previous years, still the same. They are not to exceed 10,000 or 10 steps on placement for those teachers of need. Under the athletic and academic ECA, we did compensation updates. Really didn't change a whole lot, but that concession director, we added $800 to that position for some extra duties now, adding in middle school softball, middle school baseball, all those extra things in there. We had position additions we just talked about earlier and approved the new middle school baseball and middle school softball positions, so we wanted to make sure those are in the agreement as well. at $2,000. And then we made adjustments. Well, basically, these adjustments were just to meet those current and anticipated needs down the road. Miscellaneous changes. There's CBA language. It's called HERB. They're the organization that oversees and makes sure we're compliant in the language side of things. So through legal reviews and so forth, we're updating some language throughout the CBA to make sure we're HERB compliant. Other than that, that's pretty much in a nutshell of what we negotiated. It's been a great process working with the Classroom Teachers Association to get to this point.
Was it tentative agreement? I didn't open a tentative agreement meeting.
It's okay.
Okay. So I guess I won't.
We're at that point in that, yeah. Excuse me. So now we're just at the public comment. Do you have any other comments on top of that?
Okay.
Everyone worked really well, and like teachers were given opportunities for all the input and things like that. So it was I think people were asked, like, it wasn't just random that came up. I just want people to know that it was a smooth process too.
No. Has anyone signed up for public comment? Okay, so at this time we'll close the tentative agreement meeting. We plan to have a special board meeting for the ratification and approval of the 2023-2025 collective bargaining agreement on Wednesday, October 25th at 5 o'clock.
We changed it to Monday.
Monday the 23rd.
Oh, we did. Sorry, thank you. We changed it. So our collective bargaining agreement meeting will be for ratification will be on Monday, October 23rd at 5 o'clock p.m. Here. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Here at the high school. Other business.
There is none.
Superintendent's report.
Yeah. So thank you. Real short tonight. The more fall sports, they're all heading to sectional tournaments. So we're going to wish all those participants and teams continued successes. Some good stories coming out of those that have already started. Fall break is next week. We're wishing everyone a very restful and safe week during fall break. I know there's Covered Bridge Festival going on, a lot of things happening in the area. And then the last thing is I'm going to invite Mrs. Gardner back up for an announcement regarding Drive, I believe.
I've just got a couple of announcements. So on our last PD day, we talked about our profile of a graduate. We've got 4 different qualities, and we're covering those this year during our PD time as part of the work that we're doing. And the first one that we covered was integrity. And so the cool thing is I get to talk to you about some cool things that kids are doing related to that, how they're loving other people and caring for our community. And so a couple of things going on. Danae Klein's been working on the Little Eaglets mentoring program. So she has a group of high school athletes who are going to go down to a 3rd grade classroom and work with some multiple 3rd grade classrooms and work with some kiddos that need some or want some little extra attention and time and just give them somebody to look up to. We will have Danae back and just let her talk about the program and bring some kids with her and share that opportunity. Something else that's going on is out of that meeting came the idea of doing a board out here kind of across from where we've been doing the EEE boards and do something called Legacy Builders. And so we wanted to celebrate moments when kids were doing great things in our building. And so a couple of our teachers, Ross Clark and Elaine By, really were talking about this a lot in that meeting. And we're going to put up a board and we're going to put down an alum that has built a legacy, right? And so we're going to start with Becky Brothers. When I talked to some people in the community, they felt like that would be a great role model to put up first. I've already reached out to Linda Merkel, and she's given me some information. So we're going to get Becky's picture up there and some information about her. And then next to that, we're going to have little moments where kids are doing cool things to help build the legacy of South Putnam, and just moments that they're doing, things that they're doing right now. Because that's something that when our kids met last spring and talked about who is an Eagle, and when we kind of tie in with that idea of integrity, they talked about being legacy builders. So that's something else that's cool that's going on. And then kind of tied in with that, we've got 2 events that are coming up. So we have a toy drive and a food drive that are going to be going on. So the food drive is going to be during our Girls County basketball tournament. And so the ADs and different people got together, coaches got together and talked about this. Brian was at the planning meeting, and I'm throwing him under the bus because we are going to be it's going to be a food drive, but whichever school wins, the principal gets a pie in the face. I'm pretty sure that was Brian's idea. I don't know, probably not,
It's
but.
not my idea, but I did not
Object to it. So they're going to bring.
Food trucks coming in, right?
I mean, I may be promoting it really heavily.
So it's really exciting. Again, Linda Merkel, I just mentioned her a minute ago, but she's still leading the Pie Coalition. And so all the county schools are going to be, people are going to be coming into our building, and they're going to we host that here. So they'll be coming in our building and donating food. So that's exciting. And then Amanda Line asked me to make this announcement tonight. So I'm just going to actually read what she said, but it has to do with a toy drive that's being brought back to our county. So the South Putnam and Cloverdale FFA chapters are partnering to bring back a community toy drive this year. We're so excited to share this opportunity with families in our community. The event will be held at the C-Bar C, which is in Cloverdale, on December 8th. So they'll be distributing toys on that date. Be looking at the pre-registration information that will be available within the next few weeks. And actually, I have flyers we're going to start hanging up. And notice that it also has a QR code. So if people want to make just financial donations, they can do that, and it takes them to a page. First National Bank set it up so that people can make donations through that, or they can also donate toys. They can also donate hats and gloves, and we want those toys unwrapped, but then we're also hoping people will donate wrapping paper and tape so that we can wrap them as well. If you're interested in donating new or gently used unwrapped toys, hats or gloves, batteries, wrapping paper, or tape, please reach out to the FFA advisors. Our South Putnam advisors are Amanda King, Cameron Frazier, and Helen Eaglin. And then the Cloverdale advisors are Heather Klingland and Kenzie Pig. So any of those people can give you information about this event, and we're excited for them and appreciate their willingness to do this. It's important to our community. So be looking for donation boxes out soon.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, meeting is adjourned.
Don't go anywhere, guys, you got a lot to sign.
A lot of time.
So it's like clean.